Welcome to another Lunch with Philip and Greg. Today's guest is Bart Neckebroeck, and it's a little unusual. We're at IBC, so we're in Amsterdam, and we thought we'd take this chance to talk to somebody who was actually from Europe instead of somebody from America in Amsterdam. So, welcome, Bart.
Welcome. Hi.
And what is it that you do? What are you doing now?
At this moment, I'm a trainer, so I'm a trainer for Apple. I have a training center, and what I also do is I like to edit. Because if you don't edit and you teach it, you're missing a bit of the link. So if I'm teaching and other editors give me questions, most of the time I say like, I know that, and you have to do it that way or that way. So sometimes a bit of consulting, but it's always a mix from all those things. Training, editing, and a bit of consulting sometimes. So that's what I do.
How did your career start, and how did you get to where you are now?
From totally the beginning. I think I had a few key points in my life. I started with going to school and following electronics. And from then on, I don't know, at one point I had something like, okay, I want to follow, in Belgium you have film schools. And I had something, I want to follow the film school. My dad didn't agree with it because he was into car business. So he was a teacher at the same school for cars, electronics with cars and all that. And he let me do. My brother became a cook, so he also went a different way. And I did it, and afterwards it just started with editing for a regional station. Then I came to the big broadcaster, commercial broadcaster, VTM. And there I edited also, but how do you say? I like to learn a lot.
Right.
I don't like to say, okay, I'm an editor and here is where I stop.
Yeah.
I see new technology, new things passing by, and I got something like, well, why don't we try and learn this? Or why don't we do that? And so I went away to a little firm called Liberty Television, who did travel editing, all little travel announcements and a lot of commercial to sell voyages. And they say, Avid is too expensive, because I was editing on Avid, let's get Apple. Let's get Final Cut 1.2.5. And they asked me, do you like it? So I got the software from somebody from Apple, and I got an Apple, and I edited it. And then I asked, here is Adobe, try it also with Adobe. So I went to Adobe, I edited it, and I got something like, no, I like that one. I like the Apple one, I don't like the Adobe one. So if we're switching from Avid to something else, let's make it an Apple. And so I got into Apple, and I got to know people from Apple. At that point you had Maarten Verhezen, who was manager for the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. So those three countries. And I got to know Maarten, we talked a lot. And I don't know, at one point they got somebody short who was going on stage to demo. And they say, okay, we got a problem. There's one guy short, he is ill, he doesn't come. And we had a lot of people in the room. Bart, you know English, you can talk French, you can talk Dutch. Can you please do it? So, and at that point I went on stage for Apple like this.
So you've never done training before?
At that point, no. And I did a very good presentation because they all liked it, even though all the time I got something like, oh God, what's happening? And so Mark asked me, why don't you become a trainer?
Did you edit anything before Avid, or was it always electronic for you?
It's been, like I say, 99% of the time been electronic. I started in the regional station, and the regional station had Avid Newscutter.
Right.
And I started 8 months editing, and like I say, I hate being stuck. And they had a media composer. And at that point, the guy from Media Composer left for Avid. He went to Avid, and so there was a place open for Media Composer. So I moved from Newscutter to the Media Composer. And then we had a little bit of a disagreement between the bosses and me after a year or something like that. They promised me a promotion. At the end, they didn't give it to me. And they say, no, we like you on the Media Composer side. You don't have to return to the news side. Please stay there. And I didn't like staying there because I had new things to learn over there. And they said, yeah, you don't gonna find a job. And one day after I came to here's my resignation, I already got a new job. Okay, I like that. So I started with the little small company LWPG, who doesn't exist anymore, is already gone. And they introduced me to the Apple, and so the Apple story went on and started. And I started up my first training center. It was called Editors in Motion.
Uh-huh.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Because we're always in motion. The little mistake I made is I was in Leuven, and beside the training center I had a post-production facility. And we did a series called Aspe, that's a detective series, 13 episodes, 50 minutes HD for the broadcasters. And a lot of people were saying like, okay, we need to follow training with you, but you're editing also, so you're a concurrent of us. We're not gonna come to you guys to follow training because you have a post-production facility also. And at the end I got something like, okay, I understand. For me in the beginning was like, hey guys, I'm speaking 6-7 years ago, I'm editing full HD, I'm working in SAN, I know how it works, so I can give you a lot of tips and tricks, but they didn't like it. So at that point, my colleague, who was into the company also, he said, I like to continue doing the post-production. And I had something like, no, I like training. So I said, okay, here's the money, you're out. And I started up my new company, Broadcast College.
So you decided to stay with the training?
Yeah, because I like doing training. The only problem is at this point that I'm facing a bit is there's no work. And it's coming from different sides, meaning if you lower prices of editing software, that's great.
Yes.
But there are a lot of people who are saying, okay, why do I follow a training of, let us say, 600 euros for a software that only costs 300 euros?
Oh, I see. So, yeah.
If you make things too cheap, it's getting to the problem of training. And also, we had great training opportunities with Final Cut 5, 6, and 7. And then our worst nightmare came out, Final Cut 10. I like the software, but I hate the way they did it.
Have we heard that before?
I think it doesn't change. It's always like that. It's very badly the way they brought it.
Right.
And I'm a trainer for Apple, but they do nothing anymore for us.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk bad about Apple, but at one point I heard somebody telling me, look, they don't like training centers. And I said, why don't they like training centers? Because they're always saying Apple is so simple, you don't need training. And then we have Apple training centers. So it gives a bit of a collision, I think. And the only thing, before we had Dave Cockle, so I could mail somebody. I was thinking like, okay, I can mail the guy, look, I have this problem, it's a big client, can you help me? Do you know about it? Can we figure a way around it if it's a problem? And now you have nobody anymore. I don't know who I have to mail or ask at Apple. I have no idea. I know they're engineers, I know there are people working on it, but I'm a trainer. Nobody tells me it's like, here is it, can you do the exam, you pass it, you're a trainer, bye-bye. How do you want me to promote a software if you don't back me up?
So my story about when Final Cut was released and suddenly Final Cut 7 was taken off the market was that we had a special user group meeting in Los Angeles to celebrate Final Cut Pro 10's release and to explain it to people. And I was one of the few positive voices at that time about Final Cut Pro 10. I loved it right from the start. But
don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love Final Cut 10, but like I said, I hate the way they released it.
Yeah, and that's what.
And the way they supported us.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, trainers are the first ambassadors of the software.
Yes. Yeah.
If we're bad, the product has a bad name. Yeah. If we're good, we can.
So in the meeting, I said something like, I hear that people do have some stock, so maybe Apple are releasing some more units of Final Cut Pro 7, and we go from pizza after the meeting, and then I got home. And by the time I got home at about 12 o'clock, I had an email from Apple PR people to say, what is this about new copies being released? What is this about? What did you hear? Who's doing this? What have you heard? All of that within an hour and a half at the end of the meeting. So they had a spy in the meeting, and I wrote back in my email. I said, "Look, I think I really wanted it to be true. I heard it that one value-added reseller had stock, so I was hoping that maybe Apple were freeing up a little bit." I said, I really think that the way you've released this has caused a lot of pain, unnecessary pain for people and unnecessary disruption. And I said, and this is probably the last time I will lecture a multi-billion-dollar profitable company on how to run their business, but I think you're making a mistake.
If you talk to people, they always say Apple, iPhone, iPad, and maybe an iMac. And then you're already on the maybe market. If you...
It's interesting in other things though, aren't they?
Well, I do believe that having the tools of creation on Apple's platform is incredibly important to Apple as part of their DNA. So I have no doubt that they're always going to keep Final Cut Pro 10 or a successor to Final Cut Pro 10, a professional editing tool for video, a professional editing tool for audio on their platform, because that's part of who they are. At least that's my understanding.
Yes, maybe, but like you say, they give in the wrong signals to the people in the broadcast. The first thing they did is killed everything except Final Cut 10. So they killed Color, they killed Soundtrack Pro, they killed everything.
Yep.
And if I'm correct, we're 4 years later?
Yes.
Something like that, 4 years, 5 years? I always forget when it first launched.
2011, so 4 years.
It's been evolved, we had updates and all that, I'm not discussing that. But as editor, I'm still missing a lot of little things, like my audio. I like rolls, I like the way it put out, but can I put in a little mixer which is more easy to mix? Can you please? It's not our goal, somebody else has to do it. I had just a little talk with a guy from Tangent, the color correction. They say, we don't hear anything about Apple anymore. Please let us talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's something like, guys, you're way higher than me. I'm not the guy you have to ask. I really like the little one, the new one they have. If that one could connect to Final Cut 10, it would be great to do the grading into Final Cut to try it. No, it doesn't connect. You have to color correct with your mouse.
Yeah.
Nope. I did it one time for a documentary, never again. It was horrible, really horrible. Color correction with your mouse, not done. If there are people talking to me, we're doing color correction with our mouse, I got something like, yeah, right, yeah. You're on that level. I'm not going to say that, I'm going to think it. You're on that level.
The challenge is that Apple have recognized that the industry has grown beyond what it was when I started. When I started out, there was broadcast television and there were other corporate production, but it was all done in the same style with the same technologies, the same expensive production tools. And in the rethinking of Final Cut Pro 10, I think the goal was to reimagine what editing would be without any history. And unfortunately, that means reinventing editing without the history that certain markets might need to keep going.
If people ask me what is the best software to edit, standalone, let us say standalone things. Maybe I cannot say it, but it's a Final Cut. If I have to teach new people, within 2 days, they do Final Cut. Wherever I need 5 days or more to teach them, because it's complex. And Final Cut is so easy, it does a lot of things. But if you're saying we're working in a shared environment, everybody's working together, I don't know. I have no idea. They talk about in America there are a couple of post-production facilities who work in SAN, and maybe a couple in England and also, but like I told you, Belgium, non-existing. Now there's Blazowski, who's doing Final Cut, but that's the only one in all Belgium. And we're a very small country, so in all Belgium.
One of the things that on a Facebook thread right now is that somebody's complaining pretty much along the lines of, Final Cut doesn't work well with others, it doesn't fit into the network. Well, Mike Matstoff, who was the assistant editor on Focus, jumped in and said, well, it does in fact work very, very well in groups if you know how to do it, if you're prepared to think how you're doing it. Now, it is not shared bins Avid style. It is not. They're not there yet. Whether they're ever going to get there or not, I have no idea. They don't share their development path with me.
I think that's also a little problem of Apple. What's the future going to bring? Like you say, you're sure we're going to keep on editing and we're going to keep on doing sound with Logic, but a lot of people are not convinced.
Yeah, well, you can't.
Apple doesn't say anything.
Well, it's unfortunate. Something that works very well for the rest of the company, which is the big reveal of something brand new and exciting, does not work so very well for markets that have to plan years in ahead and with capital expenditure and need to know where they're going to be in a couple of years. I understand that, and I think they do too. And when we talk, off the record with folks, they do understand that, and I think they're finding ways that they can work around that without breaking the company's rules, but and I maybe should be careful what I say.
The Pro App division has to be another firm connected to Apple and not in Apple, maybe.
One of the ways that they're opening up is that an example would be the way that they had as part of the San Jose Final Cut Pro 10 Creative Summit, organised by FMC. The Apple took people onto campus and did a little, dog and pony show is what we'd call it in the States. Yeah. A little presentation that brought out all of the high-end Apple folk. All the people who were the lead engineers, the lead marketing folk were all there. They all spoke to people.
Why don't they do that in Europe? I don't have anything against America, but it's an expensive trip for me to go over there to hear.
It is. I think it's also because they're local, and it's a little easier to do it when you're local. I know it took a lot of internal organisation, and I believe Steve Bass championed this visit, and this sort of it wasn't like they sat down and gave us the whole future of Final Cut Pro 10. It wasn't any of that at all, and what was said was under an informal NDA, whilst not to share, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But they didn't talk about the future of Final Cut Pro 10, and even with us as developers, we only get involved in beta programs when they affect something that we're doing. So if it's going to be a change that affects the XML, then generally they will invite us at an appropriate time to their choosing. They'll invite us to be part of a beta program. And then there are other times, like any incremental updates, or just like new Pro Apps Codex, or the most recent update. It's a big surprise to us because there's no need for us to know. And so there is this very much a need to know attitude. And I understand that.
Like the other products of Apple.
Yeah.
But like you told me, it's very hard for you guys and for us. So if somebody talks to me about Final Cut 10, I will defend it. But I stopped promoting it.
Ah, okay.
I will defend it because a lot of, how do I say it? Maybe this is better off the record. When I was in Avid, I had a trainer, and he was talking about I was becoming a media composer trainer. Right. And at one point, I don't know why, because I kept my mouth shut about Apple all the time. And he was like, yeah, Final Cut Pro, it's rubbish, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. And at that point I said, oh. And he went, oh, I'm a trainer for Apple, watch out what you say, because it does do that, and it does do that. And yes, I think 10 times more faster than you think. And he went like, yes. I said, if you tell something bad about the other one, be sure that you have your facts straight. Yes. Because what you're telling now is rubbish. So all those trainers here from Avid, they go on out, pronounce the same thing, even though it's rubbish.
A lot of the criticisms of Final Cut Pro 10 are by people who've never used it and just listen to the criticism about Final Cut Pro 10 that is out there on the internet. You have to trace that egg. That is the most perfectly cooked, hard-boiled egg I have ever had outside of your kitchen. we're foodies, so
Good recovery. Good recovery.
it is. Isn't it fantastic? I've never had a.
I think it's a Belgian egg.
It's a Belgian egg. I mean, the colour alone gives it a real a real indication that this is not an American egg.
Are they more less yellow? Yeah, pale.
Yeah, because they're fed on corn. They're not allowed to go out and eat grubs. And, yeah.
But where I live, we have a lot of good eggs coming from my father's garden. He has a big one. He has chickens on it. You know, every couple of weeks it's like, do you want eggs?
Yes, please.
Okay, we can bake apple cake again. What can we do again with egg? Yeah, a lot of things. But
A lot of things. Spanish tortilla is one of my favorites.
yeah.
Newly discovered from Barcelona.
So you guys traveling all around the world?
We've decided that when we come to IBC, we're going to do a little bit of travelling around and see more of Europe. So last year we went to the United Kingdom and went visiting where we knew friends, where friends that we know in the United Kingdom live. This year we went to Barcelona. We came to Amsterdam and then immediately went to Barcelona. We have friends there that we stayed with and did a little bit of cooking.
You have to visit, in Belgium you have to visit Brugge. Bruges. If you're to Belgium you have to visit Bruges.
Okay, is that the place with it's got canals?
Very old, very, very old. The problem with it is, to be honest, too many tourists.
Really?
That's what I found with Barcelona.
It's very, very beautiful. It's everything there is old. All the houses are from the Middle Ages, very gorgeous. But there are too many tourists because it's becoming too popular, because it's so unique and so nice. But I don't like going there anymore. I have a friend of mine who has bike tours, Quasimundo bike tours. He does tours around Bruges and all of that because they're very lovely thing. And you're very close to the sea. I think about 20-minute drive and you're at the Belgian coast, if it doesn't rain. But, and you're lucky. Normally it's always raining.
My first IBC trip, it was marginal. A little bit of rain, not much sun, but not much rain.
Welcome to the Netherlands and Belgium.
Last year was like this the whole week. So maybe this year will be like that as well. You mostly have worked in broadcast, so your focus is towards the broadcast side of production. So what do you think about this fact that we've gone from a relatively small number of broadcast editors through now to millions of people owning Final Cut Pro? This democratization, do you think this is a good thing or not a good thing?
Like everybody tells me, and I have to agree with it, it's not if you have the money that you can produce something, it's if you have the talent that you can produce something. Exactly. I like it. For me, it's bad news.
Well, how do you balance those two things?
Well, that's my problem at this point, because, like I told you, if you pay 200 or 300 euros for a software, there are not a lot of people thinking about, let us follow a professional training. They got something like, let's try ourselves. Belgian people all are like that. Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to whatever they found. Let's look at some demos, even if they're bad and they have mistakes in it, and let's try it ourselves. And if they're really stuck, maybe then I get a phone call. And then I say, we're talking about those prices. Hey, that's to come and train 1 or 2 days. Then they say, whoa, way too expensive. And they're gone again.
Yeah. We face the same thing with the price of software. Single Link for our Classic product, for Final Cut Classic, was a $500 application. Which, for what it did, for the people who needed it, was a very reasonable price because it wasn't a big seller, but it was an important product. For Final Cut Pro 10, it's a $200 product. Now, Automatic Duck have relaunched with their AE importer, the new 10 to AE importer.
I read about it. I got a mail yesterday. Automatic Duck is back.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about replying. Be careful or I shoot it again, the duck.
The old automatic Duck AE importer was a $495 product. Again, they're back down to $200 because, you can't sell a $500 plug-in or an add-on application for a $300 application. So you're seeing the same issue again.
In the market, who's a bit of a mystery at this point?
Go on.
DaVinci Resolve.
Yes.
Because I know they have a lot of guys from Apple, like Byron and all of those guys went all to Blackmagic.
Okay.
And about 2 years later, there's been an editing app in it, and I got something like, okay. And every time when I mail something to somebody of Blackmagic, like, hey guys, editing-wise, what are you gonna do? Is this, let's put it in and
I mean, at the moment, it's a real...
give it a go, or are you guys really gonna develop it? Or you're really gonna try to take over or stay in the shadow of Avid or Final Cut, whatever?
Who do you think would be threatened by Resolve, though? I mean, let's assume that they continue on.
Harsh, Adobe and Avid. And if you...
But Adobe has the big advantage of the Creative Suite. You get that nice integration between Premiere and SpeedGrade and After Effects and Audition.
But I hate the product. I don't like editing with it because it's like, oh gosh, guys, aesthetics. Buy somebody from Apple who can design it better. Please buy somebody less buttons and more that you can see what you do.
It's a lot cleaner now than it used to be, isn't it?
Because what I see with Adobe is they have a lot of add-ons, I call it. They have a car and they put on a new horn, and now they put on a big windscreen, and now they put on their building like, guys, 90% of editors don't need all of those. They need a good application.
Yeah.
And stop with all of those fuzzy things, let's make it. And the other thing I find is like, if I can say it, you stole the half of Final Cut 7 and half of Avid and you put it together.
They're certainly working towards making it much more broadcaster and high-end friendly. They're really trying to chase the same Final Cut 7 market. It's not a Final Cut 8 because it's really, they've gone their own direction with it and they've added, but if you look at the way they've built onto Premiere over the last couple of years, they brought more features into Premiere to make it easier for the editor to do those few things that the editor needs to do, like titles, But they've been adding a lot of stuff that is really very much broadcaster and high-end post focused.
They're trying to take over the broadcast. The problem they have at this point is like, if you have a very big TV station, and if you're thinking about what should I buy from software, then I have to be honest, I would say buy an Avid. You buy all those products, you have one phone call, you have support, and they cannot say, let's blame the other one. No, you're all Avid.
Yes, that's true.
Although it has taken Avid a very, very long time to get Pro Tools and Media Composer working closely together.
Really?
I know. There are a couple of issues. I'm not going to tell you all the issues I know because then I would be talking to you next couple of 3 days, I think. But
We've got 39 hours.
But if you are a broadcaster, I would say buy an Avid. They have a media management system, they have an iNews system. If you go into news, they have ISIS, they have servers, they have archive solutions, they have everything, and you've got to have one phone call,
Right.
and they have to help you.
Yep. I would find it very hard to argue against that. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Because at one point, 2 years ago, I invited Dave Cockle from Apple to VTM, commercial broadcaster, who was at that point looking for what do. We have Aurora from Grass Valley, which is end of line. Do we move to Adobe? Do we move to Final Cut? Do we move to Avid, or do we move to something exotic? So they asked me, because I'm a freelancer. I worked there for 9 years, so they knew me. They knew that I know a lot about Apple. They say, can you be the defender of Final Cut 10? We have a defender for Avid, we have a defender for Final Cut 10, we have a defender for Adobe, we have somebody from Sony who's defending their Sony thing. And I had something like, okay, in the first line, they came 3 days to my training center with the bosses, the unit managers. And we had a lot of discussions and demoing things. I showed them. And I still had a lot of questions that were above my pay grade, I would say. No, above my knowledge.
No, we would say pay grade.
Pay grade. And so I had something like, I sent a mail to Martin and I said, Martin, who's doing that now? Because you're not doing it anymore. Who is it? And they said, send a mail to Dave. Maybe he wants to come. So Dave came, very nice. And we had a discussion with all the unit managers of VTM. And at the end it was like, when we got home, we said directly like, they're never gonna buy Apple. They're never gonna buy it. And I said, why? Those guys need umbrellas. It's not my fault. And they need one phone call. Apple doesn't give one phone call because we only have the editing solution. If you want something else, buy a Cantemo, buy this, buy that. And they had something like, yeah. And then we have a problem. Who do we call? And Dave said, okay, guys, why don't you hire 2 guys who know XML? 2 good programmers. Why don't you buy them? And let them program everything in and out Final Cut in XML. VTM was like, you're like this, yeah. I had something, get the knowledge into the house instead of. So at the end it's Avid because they have one phone, and they pay enormous amount of money for support. But it works for VTM.
Yeah.
And because I think at that point Apple would have been. And I had a problem because who would install it? Who would support it? If you were talking about Belgium, we have one reseller. I'm not doubting his knowledge, but VTM is way over his head. He's one guy. No, they have 2 guys in the firm. That's all. I mean, that's too small to support a big TV station who works 7 on 7, 24 on 24.
One of the things that I keep hearing though is that Final Cut 10 is faster. And don't you think that eventually producers are going to hear that message and they're going to say to people, why are you cutting on the slow one when you could save me a lot of money if you cut on the fast one?
I like your question, but I think there's 2 or 3 things that gets in the way. One, not a lot of people know that it's faster.
So far.
If you're talking about the broadcast industry.
That's true.
Second of all is, then you have a chief technician who's into PC, who hates Apple because he doesn't know how it works. So he says, nah, doesn't do it. A lot of times I hear people setting up a lot of things, like let us say small regional stations in Belgium. They're very small because if you're talking about the biggest commercial broadcaster, that's going to be a very small station, regional station in America. I mean, you guys are way bigger than we. Yeah, so a regional station that's about, let us say that they have about between 5 and 10 journalists. And we're talking about 5 freelancers and 5 who are there. And when I talk to them, you have no money, guys. You're regional, you have a very small market, you have no money. Okay, let's install a Final Cut. Let's buy a couple of iMacs, let's buy a shared storage, let's do Final Cut. Which costs you 1/3 of the Avid solution you want to set, or less. It's like talking to this one. Yeah, where does it work? How does it work? Can you show us where it is?
Yeah, how do you say, yes, show me how you save money.
No, and I don't have the money to buy shared storage to put up a demo. Okay, how can I do it? Now I can say, let's go to Denmark. You guys pay. Let's try and see there how it works. But no, even though I think it's perfect to do it. And the other thing that they don't like is plugins. We do logging, then we have to buy. We do subtitling, then we have to buy. And then we have to buy. And they don't like the idea of one application and there you put on Ditch the car. Oh, these are the rear view mirrors. I like those one. Oh, let's put in new lights so we can make it better. But they don't like it. They like it's all in it. Okay, great. It's all in it. We love it.
Huh. Even if they're paying for something that they don't need. Interesting.
And working inefficiently.
Yes.
No, and also, like I say, what's a big problem with Apple is finding the plugins. Where do I find my plugins I need? I need good subcaps.
Yeah.
In Avid, you got a great subcap tool, which works perfectly. If a company gives me a file, I can, it's on my timeline. I just say render. 1 hour and a half. Let's have a lot of coffee, but it does it.
Yeah.
And then you have, okay, what do you buy with an Apple for subtitling? Yeah, you have. I found them already, but where do you?
We've made a very good living out of filling in essentially Avid features for Final Cut. I mean, sync and link we did because auto sync, in fact, but sequence clip reporter we did because people wanted better reporting than they could get out of Final Cut. EDLs and copy and paste didn't cut. Now, every time we've done that, we've actually done a much better job than what the Media Composer has built in. Sequence clip.
I'm not saying it's fantastic,
but
it's
the
there.
mindset of the people buying,
It's the mindset, and that's a big problem. I'm talking about the Belgian market. I'm not talking about America and what I heard about friends of mine is that there are a lot of other countries that are more open to it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I think is, and it's not, how do you say, denigrated for other countries, meaning, but I think in Belgium they do not allow any failure on antenna. So it always has to be perfect. I talked to a Greek friend of mine. In Greece there's no more money. They hire people for 50 euros a day. And if there's black on telly, there's black on telly. The ideal environment to experiment with everything. If you have to be sure that everything works, then you're into trouble. And like I said, we're the first ambassadors. If I don't know which plugins are available and where I can find them, how can other people find them?
Yeah. There's fairly good listings on Apple's website, but
but it's also been built because in the beginning there was nothing. Now
nothing. Yeah.
And
really, it's part of the same story is that we've had an application called 10 to 7 from very shortly after Final Cut 10 was released.
we changed the name.
We just changed the name to 10 to CC because for the last 2 years, almost everybody has been using it to go to Creative Cloud, particularly to go to After Effects. So we have not got that message out. Even to the point, like nearly a year ago when I first knew that Automatic Duck were working on the plugin that they've just released, the workflow tool, Wes didn't even know that our tools did that. Now, we didn't set out to make that tool. It just works out that because of the integration of the old Automatic Duck into After Effects, Final Cut 7 XML goes into After Effects, and we produce the 10 to 7 to go into After Effects. So, so I haven't got the message out very clearly. Even one of the reviewers of Wes's new tool didn't even know.
And another problem is, I think, because we're so little in Belgium, a lot of times people ask me, hey, does this plugin do that? No idea. Sorry, I don't have the cash or the money to buy it, to experiment. Like I say, because if you look at your economical module, the Final Cut 10 module for me for training and consultancy is let's go below again.
It's probably worth keeping in mind that most software developers will give licenses to trainers for that reason, so that you're more, you would only have to ask us for any of our apps and we'd be happy to give you a license to.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not really I feel then it's like begging. Maybe it's the wrong word to say, but it's another thing. Let us say loudness. Do you guys in America use loudness norm?
Yes, I think they do. Yeah.
Yeah, loudness normalization.
At least on DVDs, there was dial norm on DVD.
Yeah,
I know
with us it's in
broadcasters.
broadcast.
Yeah, I think it's on broadcast, but I don't.
And then again, you have the same problem. You have a couple of plugins who does it, but they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 euros.
Wow.
Because the market is very small for those.
So then again, it's like, oh God, I'm not gonna buy that into that.
Yes.
Even though I need it because my documentary is finished.
Yeah.
I just need the end and a little bit of tweaking left and right so we're long enough. I have to add 2 minutes. So I will find 2 minutes. We have dumped too much. Said that's good enough, let's dump it. And now it's like, oh, let's pull it back. But I need loudness, so I need to buy that plugin. And that's also a big issue, I think, at this moment. If you're convincing somebody about why don't you buy a Final Cut 10, then it's like, I don't find any freelance editors. Yeah, you're right. Give all your business to me. No, that's also sometimes an issue. People are saying, okay, Final Cut's great, but I don't find any freelance editors.
Right.
Yeah. There's definitely, even in Los Angeles, there's now more demand for Final Cut Pro 10 editors than there are supply.
Can't I move to Oslo? Norway? I like to move to Norway. No? Damn. Maybe soon, at one day.
What do you think has been the biggest change in technology over your career so far?
Biggest change? Technology-wise or price-wise? Because if you say price-wise, then I would say the downfall of the payment of an Avid media composer. In my beginning, it was so expensive that only post-production facilities could buy it. And then Apple came on the market, and the price Final Cut so low that Avid had a problem.
Yes.
And they had to lower everything to where they now are. And that's a big change because at that point everybody could buy it.
Yes.
And otherwise it was all about the infrastructure and the guys who had the money, and not about the talent of the guy who could edit. Because he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And he had to rent an editing suite for 600 euros a day, and now he can just buy it.
Yeah. Right.
Let's buy a laptop, let's buy Final Cut 10, I'm settled, let's do it. Well, let's buy a Blackmagic breakout thing for HDMI or something like that. And if you have a laptop, you have it. And you're settled, you can edit. That's for me, it's the biggest thing, because to be honest, all the rest is 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was all about 3D. Yeah! And I had something like, or you have to change a lot on it, otherwise it's rubbish. You have to sit in front of it at a good distance, and then it's okay. And then you have to put on glasses. I'm not used to glasses, so for me it's, after an hour, my ears start to hurt. So I had something like, okay. Like now it's, I don't know, the topic is 4K here now. I'm still waiting until a broadcaster sends out a decent HD signal.
Yeah. I've always argued that for release, I want better pixels, not bigger pixels or more pixels. And HDR is probably going to give us better pixels, high dynamic range images. But on the other hand, 4K for production.
Yeah, okay, but if we're talking about the Mojo market again, it's again a small. But you have television, which is a small, and then you have post-production.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Yeah, because you can, if you're doing at the end HD, you can rescale.
Of course.
And sometimes you can lift out errors by rescaling. Yeah, okay.
You know, shooting 4K gives me a wide shot. I can, out of this camera, I can pull a shot of you or a shot of you. That camera, a shot of you, a shot of me, a shot of two-shot.
And that's coming a bit, I think, from photography.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I had something like, how the hell did he took that shot? No, he just took a very big picture and cut out the little one. Because he had a big resolution.
Yeah.
And that's now what I think is going for 4K. In Belgium, they're still struggling about HD in use.
Yes.
Don't forget, they get satellite connections and all of that. They gotta put the image through. So the bigger the picture, the bigger the satellite, and the more cost it is. And we're living in a world that doesn't have any money.
Yeah. Yes, that's been that constant downward pressure on prices has been there right from the start.
So 4K is nice. I like to edit, I like to film my next documentary in 4K and edit it in 4K just to test it.
Yes, yes.
Because I only have a little HD television, so why should I put on 4K? Like you say, resize. To correct mistakes. Other big things? No, it's just evolving. Okay, we moved from tape to digital. Sort of, because everybody's still struggling how to keep the digital archive.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So it's still on the way. Yeah, let's buy TLT tapes.
Back to tape again.
Back to tape again, guys. Yeah, but they're not tapes like they're tape. And to be honest, why does VTM has XD cam? Because when they film, they have something like this one is 20 euros. To be sure. If something crashes, we still have it. And then you're to tapes again, guys. Even though the tape is an XD cam now, but you.
Yeah. What about future change? What do you think will change? You're still relatively young. You've got many years of work ahead of you. What do you think will be the change that you see coming ahead?
It's a big question. The question I'm asking myself this week a lot of times. Where do we go? Where are the opportunities to have work? As an editor, it's getting more difficult because we have a profession. If they don't think and they don't look at quality, I have my years of editing, so I pride myself to give quality.
Yeah.
But if the TV stations say quality, yeah, they're not gonna pay me. They're gonna pay me this amount instead of that amount. And then I have a problem, because then again my economic model doesn't work anymore. And it's not me to say, because if you say no to a certain amount, there are 10 others who say, yeah, let's pull down our pants and let's do it for that amount.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you're killing the market.
Yes.
Well,
I know you're looking for work, but that's, yeah, but afterwards, if we do it afterwards, we ask again more money. Yeah, right. Yeah, right, oh God.
when has that ever worked?
Never. But they think like that. Also, every student who leaves schools, let's start with low amounts to move in and let's get big amounts later. No, doesn't work. The moment you start that, maybe you can lift up to here, but never to there.
Yeah, Adobe Anywhere and Avid Everywhere is, the inevitable consequence is outsourcing to lower price marketplaces.
To be honest, my worst nightmare, like I said, nothing against people or they, is somebody from India who's gonna cut my thing for 50 euros a day.
Yep, yep.
I cannot compete with it because where I live it's way more expensive.
Yeah, yeah. But if you can, it's inevitable that they will.
Yeah, but that's my,
It's your biggest nightmare.
yeah, because I got nothing, I cannot compete with it. I can do whatever I want, I'm failing. The only thing I can keep up at this moment is the language barriers. Dutch, a difficult language, but I'm editing a lot of trailers now. They're English. Those guys understand English. There we go. So that's, for me, it's frightening. And that's why I talk to my wife, okay, what I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna go, how we gonna evolve that and that one is scary, and the other one is also scary, that is, they don't mind quality anymore.
Yeah.
I got friends who are really good editors, who edit enormous amount of Belgian films and series. They have trouble finding work. Because like, hey guy, I know you're very good, but you're way too expensive. Let's take a cheap one. Even though he makes mistakes, this cheap one, they take him. So at the end it's like, okay. So that's a bit of a challenge for me to see where I'm going.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have a good friend with Apple, Ronnie. He doesn't work for Apple, but he's a consultant for Apple. And he did the project in Denmark, and he's now looking for other projects to do. And I hope he can take me with him.
Right.
So I can do some training.
If people do want to to find you, to find some training or production, where can they get in touch with you?
On my website, of course,
Which is?
www.broadcastcollege.be, Belgium. And then you can mail me. My mailing address is on it, my telephone number is on it. They can mail me, they can send me.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Bart, for coming to lunch with Greg and I.
Okay, great guys, thanks.